All right. We are live Wednesday, March 2nd. Thank you, everyone out there, for hanging with us here in Fish Podcast Land. My name is Brian Brinkman. I'm here with my close friends, RJ and Megan, to talk through Mexico 2022. RJB is here. He is tanned. He is relaxed. He is happy. He is filled with bliss and good vibes because he just returned from Fish, Mexico here. This is the Helping Friendly podcast on tour and live coming at you, talking through Mexico 2022. RJ, how are you doing here today? Did I accurately describe the way you felt coming back from Fish, Mexico?
Yeah, I feel great. I mean, it was amazing to get away for a few days and be in Mexico. I mean, there's nothing like it in live music or vacation music. It's great. I feel awesome.
Feels awesome. As AK-13 says, you are glowing with bliss. I can see it. There's a glow, man. There is.
You are, RJ.
I'm trying to keep it going.
It's that love and light.
It's that love and light. Meg, how are you doing? We hung out a lot over the last week, and we're still talking fish. We're still, we're still friends. This is a good thing. We had no serious debates that threw everything off. How are you feeling meeting someone virtually who was in Mexico in the middle of February while you were not?
I'm happy for RJ. I'm happy for everyone that got to go. There was some moments, I think it was Friday, I was like walking in like the freezing rain in New York City, and I was like really digging down deep to feel happy for those people, but I am happy for you. And I had a blast talking with you, Brian. We had such a good time. I mean, Fish was on fire. So even watching these shows from the couch was an awesome time.
I totally agree. It was an incredible time. It was, I had a very good weekend. My brother would come over. We would order food. We'd hang out. My son would tell us to turn the volume down every so often. And I was like, no, you don't seem to realize Fish is jamming like very early in the first set. And I tried to explain it to him and he just didn't care, but I cared. And that was what meant.
So good. And as you know, I was watching it on a weekend away with my husband, the non-Fish fan. So shout out to him for being super cool. And
that's great.
Yeah. Supportive of my obsession.
Another shout out to your husband for that. That was amazing.
I just want to say that when I got back on Monday night, I was tired and I, all that, but it's so much less exhausting than like an MSG run or like any other 4-night Fish thing. I'd be at least 5 times as tired. And part of that's because part of it's because I didn't have kids around, but it's also like you sleep in, you order room service for free, or you go to breakfast whenever you feel like it and eat like as many tacos as you want. And then you go to the pool or the beach and you just like sit with your friends and talk for hours. And then you go to a concert on the beach like much later. There's not like city to deal with. You don't drive, you don't get on public transportation. You don't have to you don't have to do anything. If you wanted to, you could just literally lay in your bed the entire day and then just go to the show when it's showtime, which I'm sure some people did.
A lot of people do that.
I mean, it's expensive and it's complicated to get there sort of, but it's incredible. I've been surprised at how good I feel coming back just because I think it's just such a chill environment that you don't have to worry about anything. So I just want to throw that in there.
This is a great preview for everything we're going to cover because we did some very in-depth deep dives about each show. I want to hear your musical highlights. We want to jump into, I don't know about you all, but I've listened back to a few jams since the run ended, and I want to get your thoughts on kind of how it holds up musically. But that stuff right there, the moments in between that none of us know because we just turn on our live Fish app about 30 minutes before the show. They show some very happy people who seem very relaxed. They seem like they've ordered room service and hung out on the beach all day. We want to know what that was like. But before we do that, we do have 2 points of business that we do have to address. The first of which is I want to remind all listeners out there to please subscribe to Osiris Media on Apple Podcasts to get HFPod Premium, as well as Undermine Premium episodes, past Under the Scales episodes, and a bunch of other bonus content that we're currently working on. We just actually recorded another bonus episode here, this group of 3. Really, really fun time hanging out with without the mics or without the cameras, without the lights of live TV and recording just by ourselves. We talked about our favorite versions of the absurd song Catapult. So look for that episode on Apple Podcasts for premium members here in the next couple of days. It's $4.99 a month, gets you ad-free content as well as a bunch of bonus episodes. It's a great way to support what we are doing here at Osiris. And we also want to tell you about our friends at Sunset Lake CBD. Meg, do you want to tell us a little bit about our friends at Sunset Lake CBD, our great friends at Sunset Lake that we absolutely love?
I'd love to. As you know, they've really turned me into a CBD fan. And the cool thing about Sunset Lake is that you don't have to spend a lot of money to get really high quality CBD because they actually send it straight from their farm. And they're a Vermont hemp farm. They craft affordable CBD products that are designed to help with sleep and stress without breaking the bank. So if you're someone that didn't go to Mexico, was home dealing with your kids in shitty weather in New York City, I was taking CBD every night and it helped me feel happy for everyone in Mexico and also just get a good night's sleep. I could stop thinking about this incredible fish show. I could just go to bed and wake up feeling really well rested. So Sunset Lake CBD crafts their products from hemp grown on their family farm, and they ship them directly to customers, also very quickly. Your products will come so fast. It's incredible. So they cut out all the costs associated with getting their product on the shelves at stores. And they have CBD products for every occasion. They offer tinctures, salves, edibles, coffee, smokables. They even have pet products, which I need to try out because my dog Reba is a barker and maybe this would help her calm down. So I don't know if anybody has experience with using CBD with their pets, but let me know. I'm curious. So check them out.
Share them in the comments.
Yeah, let us know. I know a lot of people do, so I think it works really well. If you check them out, though, use the coupon code HFPod. You get 20% off all your products, and it helps let them know that we sent you. So it's Sunset Lake CBD, farmer-owned, Vermont-grown.
What a great company. I use them throughout the Mexico run as well to give myself that bliss zone that one needs to feel like they are on a beach in Mexico while shoveling snow. So with that, RJ, so just about a week ago, you arrived in Mexico. Tell us, this was not your first time going there. Tell me kind of your past experiences and what your thoughts were going back into it, coming out of the last 2 years that we've had without Fish Play Mexico.
Yeah, I can't believe that was a week ago that I got there, but you're right, it was. Thank you for keeping track of that.
I just know your schedule, so
I forgot. Okay, so I went in 2020. It was the last thing we did before the pandemic really started and the lockdown started, and we moved, and then it was crazy. So that was the last thing we did really, and it was awesome, and we really wanted to go back. So since then we moved to Philly, and I probably mentioned, I know you guys know, I don't know if I mentioned on the show, but we've made friends with neighbors on our street, and there's 3 families that live on our street. A couple of them have moved up to other places, but we all decided in June that we were going to go to Mexico together, and then we actually did. And so I was there with 6 people who are all fish fans who live on my block, but who I've never seen shows with before. And 2 of my friends, we walked down there with our bags and got in the taxi and went to the airport and spent the whole weekend hanging out with them. So that was it was really cool to actually have come through with that thing that we thought we would do. The whole thing is just it's just such a seamless experience. You get there to the airport and you go through customs, which took an hour. There are thousands of people in there. But then when you get through, go out and there's a CID person. You get on a bus, they give you drinks. You go to the hotel, you check in, they give you drinks, and then you go to dinner, and then then the whole weekend just starts. It's just it's a very simple and seamless process. And getting there and going there was cool because we were with a bunch of new friends and saw a bunch of old friends, and it was great.
I feel like as an adult, I just want someone to take care of things for me. So that sounds like you're very taken care of and you don't have to make decisions or worry about things. That sounds really delightful.
Yeah, and it's definitely you pay for it, but we paid for it so long ago that it seemed like it was free because by the time it
Yeah.
happens, you're like you don't remember paying for it,
Yeah.
and that was just it's just so it's great. I don't know. I just keep saying it's great. The staff there is so awesome. The venue is cool. The resort itself is great. There's nothing that I would do differently, which I think is different from the Barcelo where it was the first few years.
Mhm.
It's this place like has it dialed in to the point where anything you need. My wife was sort of like not doing it on purpose, but it's like if you like ask someone like, "Can I do this? Can I like bring my drink into this place, or can I like order food from this pool or whatever?" Like they just say yes to everything. There's like really hard for them to say no
Perfect.
to something, Um, so the food also is really, really, really high quality. I was pretty impressed with the food, especially in the restaurants within the resort. And then there's like buffets and stuff. But um, yeah, it's great.
It sounds great. I mean, I feel like at the end of the day, it sounds perfect. Um, Tell me kind of when you're in the resort and as you're hanging out throughout the day, I'm guessing it's majority, if not all, fish fans. Is it just like you're at a fish festival, you just happen to be at a different location? Like, what is the vibe like in that sense?
So there's three separate locations. There's the Grand, and then there's like Nizook and Sunrise. And we last time we were there, we joined this vacation club, which many of my friends made fun of me for and told me I bought a timeshare. But I reminded them that it's not a timeshare; it's a vacation club. We basically did it we'd be forced to go back every time fish goes back because that's sort of it's actually a pretty good deal. But anyway, um, that so we're in the Grand, which is like the fancier part, but it's also the part that's not only fish fans. So the other
Mm.
parts, Nizook and Sunrise, where the venue is at the other end, those are all fish people. And our part was probably like 50 to 60%, but there were a lot of families, there were a lot of people traveling there just to like go and hang out because in that area there's like a huge water park and a area for kids to play in the pool, and so it was a little more mixed where we were. But once you start walking toward the venue, you just walk through like a mile of like shakedown basically, and the rooms that are on the
Awesome.
walkway that face the walkway, people put out flags and hang things, and so you actually like walk by people's rooms and their patios are right there, so people are sitting out on their patio next to the walkway and you high five everybody, and it's like walking through shakedown but for a long time and then on the beach. So during the day, you like, any restaurant, any pool that you're at or on the beach, like there's always a bunch of fans around and good conversation, and it's very much like it has the feel of a show, except it's just much more relaxed. And even
Yeah.
like the pre-show, like getting in there and getting a spot, like no one really cares that much. It's like it's much more chill.
Yeah, a lot of the a lot of the overhead shots made it look as though people had just a ton of space leading up to the stage. Like I was pretty blown away. I don't know if it's just the way that they sell it and the space that they're on, but it looks like every single person there has a lot of room. Did you feel that?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, Thursday night we were Mike's side, probably like right near the soundboard. Friday and Saturday we were pretty close, probably 20 rows back. And then Sunday we were on the beach the whole time. But the yeah, you go in and everyone's like has their, some people bring sheets from their room to instead of tarps. So there's definitely some of that happening, but it's not very territorial. And once you like say hi to the people around you, then everyone's just like friends. I mean, there's just not that many people there, even though it can get crowded if you're like going back to the bathroom or to get a drink or something. But it was really friendly. And then once the space is taken, there's not people coming up trying to like get in between the groups. It's like once people see like a row of people, then like the next row of people comes in 5 or 10 feet behind you. So it's just like naturally spacious. Um, there's also not the sound anywhere, even in the very back or on the beach. It was really good everywhere. So I also think like sight lines and sound wise, you can't really go wrong. Like there are little places to hang out everywhere where the sound is good and where you can see pretty well.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, you can sense that. It doesn't seem stressful in the way that like the rail look is in a normal show. I think when they were showing it overhead, you could really tell
Yeah.
there was plenty of space.
Yeah, I think if you're like actually in the front row, there's probably a little bit more like, we went in early on Saturday because we did the foundation event. So that was the one day that we went in early, but the other days we went in probably like at doors and we were able to get as close as we wanted to be. So there's not a lot of fighting for space, which makes it a lot more chill.
Yeah, that's nice. It looked as though this year the stage, I don't know if there was a new location for the actual venue or if it flipped. Do you have any thoughts on
Yeah.
that and which you preferred?
Yeah, it was near the Grand before. So it was on the opposite end of the resort before, and now
Got
it's
it.
on the other end. So Mike's side is the ocean now, where Paige's side was the ocean before. That's the change. But this part of the beach was, I think it was wider. I think it was wider. And the other end where we walked through, it was they must have had erosion or something, or just built up this side of the beach because it was so much wider than it was on the other side. And yeah, now it's like where it's like in the Wook area, Wook in a endearing way, like in the where all the fans stay. I don't know if they got complaints for having all the concerts in the area where it was mixed with like families and other people, or if it was just a better location, but it worked better, I think. I think
Well, I
it
was
worked
going to
better like
ask, like,
sound wise too.
there were rooms right there, and you could see that some fans just like didn't even bother coming in the concert grounds. They
Yeah.
just hung out on their patios and gave Trey a light show.
Yeah.
That area though, that was that near where you were staying, or is that like
No,
where
that's
there
the
were
opposite end.
non-fans?
That's
Okay,
called Sunrise. So that's sort of like, and those rooms, I think in previous years when the stage was on the other side, those would have just been like really nice rooms. And now I think
got
this
it,
year they were like the most expensive rooms,
got it, got it, got it, got it.
which makes
Okay,
sense because you're like actually able to watch the show from your room, which is kind of insane.
it's kind of
Yeah,
It's
crazy.
like
I
having
love
a
those
box.
people.
Right?
Yeah, they were
It's
like
having
in
a
their
box at
patio,
MSG.
and
Yeah.
yeah, that was awesome.
Box you can go back and sleep in. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Well, let's talk about the music. So, let's jump into, and I kind of want to just take this like highlights in terms of like
Yeah.
where you saw the band excelling and what really struck you. Thursday was the one set show. I guess from a structural standpoint, like this is a new feature that they started in 2020 where they have this welcome set. They have two relatively, for all intents and purposes, normal two set Fish shows, and then one early show on Sunday. What are your thoughts on this structure? Do you like it? Do you wish that there would be any sort of an adjustment? Like, what is it like on the ground?
Yeah, I mean the one set show is great. I mean it's also like a very long set, I think it's a good way to get into the weekend. I didn't need more I didn't need more music that night. It also starts a little later, so by the time the encore was over, it was probably 11:30 Eastern, right? I don't know if you live.
Yeah.
It must have been.
Yeah.
So it's it's like it works in that environment. It's a little bit, you know, the later start and then the earlier start on Sunday is a great way to try to structure it around people's arrivals and departures, because of course people who are coming in on Thursday are going to get delayed, and it's also like once you land, you're not in your room for like 3 hours probably. There's like the customs thing it's super intense. So if you guys have ever traveled internationally, like any international airport you go to, customs is like a disaster compared to the US.
Yes.
Usually, right?
Yes. Quite.
Yeah. So anyway, I think it's nice that they do that and start a little later. And that first night was great. That was my first in 27 years of seeing Fish, my first Peaches, which was
I love that song. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool to see, and I couldn't believe that I hadn't seen it. But I think once it started, I was like, "There's no way I've seen this before,"
Wow.
Mhm.
which was great. And with our group, we were like, throwing out our openers, and like I feel like they played every song that was called as an opener. They played eventually in that set, so we kind of all won. I thought "Never Knew You Like This Before" was going to open again, but then fourth song in, it's kind of like an opener. Like a lot of
A great version as well. Just really.
Yeah, it
rock
was great.
Yes, rocking version.
I mean, the Lizards was like, there was a little bit of like a bumpy start to Lizards. And I was thinking like, if they're like going to open with this, wouldn't they like sit down and be like, all right, we should open with Lizards. Let's like run through it and see if we remember it. But whatever, once Moma Dance started, and then it just felt like they were totally locked in. I mean, I think Trey's always sort of in control in Fish shows, but it felt to me like from the very beginning, he was like, even like fills and things that he doesn't typically play, like he was so in control the entire weekend. He's clearly been like playing a lot and getting ready for this. It was amazing to me how quickly they dropped into it, just because that one show on New Year's Eve, and before that was Vegas, right? So so they haven't played a lot recently, but it didn't show at all. I really liked those songs I mentioned, and the Tweezer. I expected some kind of bigger jam, but I didn't expect a jam to go that deep that early on the first night. Which was just it was just, I mean, a 20-minute Tweezer. Like, what else do you want? I was like very much just like, this is how it should be. And to me, like, I think people probably were not as happy with the end of that set, but to me, like Shade and Evolve and Sigma Oasis and Sand to close it out, like, to me, it was all perfect. So I really liked it, and I thought that Dave coming out for the encore was just really cool to see. I haven't seen Dave Matthews play in a really long time, and I thought it worked well, and I thought he and Trey were, they seemed to be having a good time with it. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, we talked when Meg and I talked on Friday about this show that, like, it felt like Lizards Through Funky Bitch was this like opening segment to kind of welcome everyone. And then once Tweezer started up, it was, are they actually going to jam this, or is it just going to be, energy and they're playing Tweezer? And the fact that they took it to where they did, and then that Tweezer through, I would say, until Shade, felt like a very specific segment of music. I loved Evolve in that spot. I loved the Tube Jam. Sigma Oasis, I thought, was going to ultimately end it. The Dave Matthews Encore was one of my favorite things I've seen the band do in a long time. Like, seeing Trey and Dave together up on stage. I was watching it with my brother and my wife, and like all of us were like smiling ear to ear from the couch. We all had Live at Red Rocks before we had a live one type of thing. Like, that was the entry point.
Yeah.
And the look on Dave's face when he figures out the Tweezer reprise riff.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there being like, he's never played anything this heavy on stage before, like in his entire career. And he's just going to be blown away once Fishman and Gordo come in. It was a great opening set. Megan, what were your thoughts as you've kind of listened back to this?
Yeah, I mean, there were so many great moments in this set. I think that falling into that huge jam right into Tweezer, not that it was a huge jam, but they fell right into it. Like, they sounded so locked in, like, immediately when the jam started in Tweezer. And that was the moment that I was like, wow, they're really listening to each other. And that's carrying over from like summer and fall tour, which was really exciting. I also thought the Howling was so awesome. It was so well played and so fun. I've been waiting to hear like when these songs, like, I was curious, like, I knew they didn't play them on New Year's Eve. And so I was like, are they going to be playing them right away? Are they going to wait? And I thought that one was played so well. I mean, the biggest takeaway for me watching this show at home was just how happy Trey seemed. He seemed so happy. They seemed to be having so much fun. And I agree. I thought the encore was magical. I feel like it was just two friends who care a lot about each other. And it was beautiful to hear them play some songs. I got to learn about The Maker, which I didn't really know a lot about, which was such an amazing song. And there's a lot of history with other artists singing the song. And I thought that was really cool to hear them play that. And yeah, the Tweezer reprise, like them just raging together and seeing Dave Matthews with that, like, the minute that like Fishman kicks in is just like such a moment to be on stage for something like that, and to see all these fans just going crazy. That was so fun. I loved the show. I thought it was a really, really, really strong, like, if you think of it as a little mini tour opener or run opener. I mean, I walked out of the show, not walked out, but left the couch from the show thinking like, they sound great. Like, this is going to be a really solid run.
Yeah, for sure. It was a great way to start, for sure.
So we moved to Friday.
Did you see? Oh, RJ, I wanted to ask you, did people, like, what was the vibe on the ground during the encore?
It was, I would say mixed. Like, I think some people, I
Mhm.
think I tweeted this the other day, particularly about Sunday, just because we'll get to Sunday, but there was a lot of conversations happening throughout the
Mhm.
shows. It was especially when the two nights that I wasn't up close. When you're Friday and Saturday, there was no talking the whole time, but Thursday we were a little further back, and I think it's just like it just felt like a time to like kind of relax and not like
Mhm.
be too focused on the music. 'Cause it was like Dave Matthews singing a song or whatever. It just I think people like felt like it was okay to just kind of like be distracted for a few minutes.
Mhm.
I don't think anyone expected the Tweezer reprise to happen until later in the weekend. I think that was like what
Mhm.
a lot of my friends expected. So to hear him, I think that's when people like were like, "Oh wait, this isn't over yet." Um,
Yeah. Wait,
so
I gotta pay attention now.
yeah, but I think in general it was sort of like, okay, this is cool, but like I don't have to like pay that close of attention to it.
Makes sense.
So we move into Friday. So so you've been there now Wednesday night, Thursday night. You're leaving the first show. It's a little bit of an easier show to handle. How are you pacing yourself out? Are you leaving the show and is there like a vibe afterwards, or how are you handling this? I don't
The
want to get into the
vi-
nitty gritty, but
the
like,
vibe of leaving one of these shows is it's wild. So you go back through like we walked back and forth, which is about a mile each way to both nights. I mean all the nights, but these first two nights, the you walk out of the show and there's a big pool area in the middle section of the resort, and that's where they have a bunch of food set up. So like, the kind of buffet style with like hot dogs and hamburgers and nachos and chicken wings and like that kind of stuff. And all the bars around the pool are open. And then there's like gigantic speakers everywhere. And then that's when like the DJs start. So it's just like you instantly walk into like a 1 to 3,000 person dance party. And, depending on who's doing what that night,
Yes.
like people are pretty into the dance party. It's not like you just walk through and like look at the sites. It's like people are like forming big groups and like really, really continuing the party. So once you get to that area, I mean, it's a raging party. So the first night I think we went back and hung out for a little bit, and then went back to our area. But you got to walk through that area either way. So you're definitely going to get some food and stop and see some friends or whatever. And it's like it definitely is not over once you leave the show. Again, it's like a huge long shakedown, but with
yeah.
free food and drinks and like around a bunch of pools. It's pretty crazy.
Kind of sounds like Vegas, but like you walk out of like the MGM
Mhm.
Grand, you're immediately in the casino, and but you're like more isolated. You mix back in with the Vegas crowd there, but here it's just fish fans just transporting to another
Yeah,
place.
it's another party. It's a new party. I think it goes until I think the DJ technically goes from like 11 to 1 or 12 to 2. But it's the one rule is you can't jump in the pool. So there's no swimming at night. So the pools are empty. So everyone's just around the pools, but there's like, 10 pools. So people are just everywhere around the pools. And we got convinced, a lot of our friends are like, no, don't go back. Like, stay here and hang out. And so we did that every night, at least a little bit, some nights more than others. But it's certainly like, it's a huge party.
So Friday comes and like the party's continuing ahead of the show here. Are you like touring outside of the resorts, or did you just like camp yourself in the resorts
No,
and just
I
like
mean,
chill out for 5
yeah,
days?
my wife's thing was like, I'm not leaving the resort at all, unless it's by boat. Like, but I'm not like taking a bus somewhere or taking we're staying here
Yeah.
unless a boat comes on the beach and picks us up and takes us somewhere. Which I think Matt and his wife did that the last day. They did like a boating thing that left from the resort. But yeah, our typical thing was we would like order room service and then around 11 or 12 go to the pool and meet our friends and like get in the pool and have some drinks and have some tacos and then like lay around the pool some more. And then, at 4 or 5 or so, people would like start to get motivated to walk down toward the show, and you either like stop at a restaurant and eat, or you eat on the way there or in the venue. It was like all day. There are like no plans at all. You just hang out, which is pretty cool and rare. It's rare to have a day when you just chill,
Yeah.
like actually nothing to do, which is pretty cool. So Friday was one of those days where we just like hung out on the beach for a while, and then went to a couple of the pools and ate lunch. And then 5:00 we start walking down toward the venue, and then the show started around 8.
And so this was my personal favorite show from the couch of the weekend. Had kind of everything that I want in a show. It was song selection that I would not have picked out. There was great jamming throughout. Second set obviously goes very deep. What were your thoughts on this show overall? What were some of your highlights?
Yeah, I agree. It was really interesting. We were pretty close on Mike's side this night, probably like 20 rows back, and we were with a group of friends and a couple other people who had their own groups of friends, and we were sort of like spaced out, and it was cool. And then like more people showed up, like more of our friends showed up, and then more of their friends showed up, and then it became a little crowded. So we spent most of the first set there, and then we eventually headed down. Like if you just walk out Mike's side, then you're on the beach next to the water where there's even more room. So eventually we went down there, but the Ghost early on was just really, it was great. But the highlight of the first set was of course, like the Haleys back into Santos and the Satisfaction, which if you guys were watching, you probably saw it better than I do, but I felt like you could tell that they slowly were like realizing that they actually knew the song as they were playing it. And after like 30 seconds, they just like start playing it. It was incredible to me that they were it seemed to me like on the spot, like realizing that they could actually play it. And then, they all probably grew up playing it, right? So it's not that surprising, but to see them just go straight into it and then actually not just a tease, but like to really play it, I thought was really great. That was just such a cool moment. And the Haleys, I was looking for Matt during Haleys because I knew kind of where he was. So I was kind of walking around trying to find him during that jam. And it was really, that was really cool. That was a cool segment.
Yeah, you could really see this on the webcast. I don't know. You guys have the screens there, so you might have seen it as well. But Trey sings the first line and then kind of looks at Paige and starts laughing. It reminded me of the Dick's 2011 Come Together Out of Rock and Roll, where they stumble on the riff, and Trey's like, all right, I'm just going to try to do this. And he can sing the first verse, but then when they get to the chorus, he doesn't know what key the chorus is in. He doesn't know the chord to go to. And he looks at Paige and he just kind of starts laughing. And they're just like, we're just going to sing it. And whatever we play below, like, don't judge us for this, because we just fell into this and nobody rehearsed it. And it's just kind of like a perfect throwback to classic rock radio, but also just like super humorous, because what other band is going to just, playing a resort in Mexico is going to fall into a cover song that they've never played before and haven't rehearsed, meticulously before this.
Yeah. It was really cool to see. And that set I thought was really fun. The second set I was on the beach and I was sort of like, I think I kind of lost the momentum of Down with Disease, even though it was really beautiful and great. For some reason, I just didn't, like after, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes in or something, I was just sort of, I think I was a little tired and I was just sort of like seeing where it went. And I was just kind of watching and had probably stopped moving and was just sort of like watching the stage. And then, and then they played Numberline, and then it was all different at that point, which was, I thought it was a great version, but that's like, Brian, how much I love that song. It was great. I thought they would play it on like Sunday or at some point late in a set, but I thought it was well placed and really pretty awesome.
How many people did you have to remind that you felt sorry for them, that they had to watch their favorite guitarist play his favorite song in front of 7,000 people or however many were there?
Only on the internet, nobody in person. But I did.
Oh, good.
I did remind everyone on the internet the next day, just because part of my responsibility. But I thought it was a great version, and the Carini kind of jam picked up where the Down with Disease jam left off, in that kind of blissful groove. And like 4-song second set, song I heard the ocean sing, it was probably the strongest show overall, I think, start to finish, just in terms of the flow and the quality of the songs. It was great.
Carini was probably my favorite jam of the weekend when all was said and done. It just had kind of all these thematic elements I loved. We were talking about this a lot on the recaps, this sense of like they would finish a song and like the bottom would just drop out and they would get to this place of everything was really melodic. It was really blissful, but it felt very weightless, and they would kind of build it back up. And in some of these jams, they almost didn't really need to build anything back up, but that space seemed from the couch like it fit the vibe of the overall run really, really well. It kind of mixed what we heard musically throughout 2021. There were a lot of heavy synths from Page. There was Trey, really emphasizing his synthesizer pedal. For you being on the beach, that kind of vibe of like being tired, maybe sunbaked, and just kind of hanging out, the ocean, you're on the beach, fish is playing. Like, did you find that style fit the vibe of the run any better than like if they had been more aggressive or more kind of upbeat in some cases in the jamming?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I thought the whole thing was like really pretty perfect. So I guess, yeah, like it seemed to fit perfectly. I mean, there is like I think even just like an outdoor venue compared to an indoor venue, there are different things, but I just think being next to the ocean it's just a different vibe, and it obviously affects their playing in some ways. I think the jamming for the most part was like, yeah, pretty chill, I guess, comparatively, but I think it fit well. Although they did start to get Friday night, I think started to get pretty deep in some of those jams, like you said, and I think Saturday had even more of that. And then Sunday was more like a little bit more laid back, I think, in some ways. But Saturday to me was like the deepest sort of night of the run, just because it started like off the bat, like pretty heavy with Exila and Twist. It was like they were going into it like pretty seriously right away.
This is my favorite show of the run, the Saturday night show. I just think it's super interesting. The set list is like nothing I would ever have written down, but there's some incredible playing like right away. I mean, I think the Axilla combining the part 2 coda onto the part 1 was super cool. Twist is good. And Your Pet Cat, this jam is so awesome. So like bluesy and funky. And then I love this Wolfman's Brother. I mean, it's an awesome version. First set, like they take it super deep. I think the first set is really, really strong on Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. This is also the night where like all the people that I was with and Matt and his wife and a lot of other people actually were like all in one spot really close and like 50 feet from Trey probably. And it was just the right space and the right people. And I was pretty spaced out myself personally that night. So I was like really just kind of like the extended outro in Axilla was like, okay, this is like, it reminded me of the second night of Vegas, but that like really kind of set the tone for it for me. Divided Sky is my wife's favorite song, and so that was cool to hear. Although I expected to hear it during like the daytime set on Sunday, and not like middle of a first set Saturday. But it was great, and the Wolfman's was like so long, and to me that was like that jam is the most, I guess, representative of where they are sound wise right now. Like there's like it's almost like the Your Pet Cat kind of jamming sound, but with like more heavy synth sounds from Page, more texture, more like, but kind of like funky jamming, but just with like much more spacey sounds coming from Mike and Page and Trey. Like it's so many layers.
Yeah, it's
pretty
so
wild.
patient. I feel like it gets really deep and you can hear them playing that song in like a slower tempo and they're just not trying to like chase jams. I feel like this whole
Yeah.
weekend, the jams were
Yeah.
just like falling into the space where they were and they were really listening and yeah, the interplay between Paige and Trey and that Wolfman's is incredible. I said in one of the recaps, but it reminds me of Paige's album, Maybe We're the
Mhm.
Visitors, like with
Mhm.
this like really kind of like desolate soundtrack to like a weird movie. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just there was just this really kind of textured richness to it that I think is so cool. And I think is a cool evolution from where they were last year if they're gonna like keep moving in that way. It's incredible the diversity of the jams all weekend. Like they were playing dark, they were playing blissy, they were playing delicately. They were playing funky. There's a lot of like bluesy stuff. I think it's incredible.
Yeah, this show was, it felt to me, you know, you're on a vacation and there's like a point where you almost feel like, do I need to actually go back? And I've got to imagine the band feels that way as well. And like Saturday night, everyone's so deep into it. You know, you have another show left. And it kind of feels like the show where like the vibe of the island, the vibe of like being on the beach, like if you're going to go and get a tattoo or if you're going to like, you know, get a necklace that like you're going to bring back as like, you know, a symbol of this experience that you had when you were away. If you're getting your hair braided, whatever you're going to do, it's going to happen on this night. And they like fully dove into this. This is the beachside getaway show of the weekend. And the fact that they took it to as many diverse jamming places, as many like dark places, but also like kept that melodic aspect of the first two nights. It fits as like an evolutionary step forward, like you're talking about, Meg, but it also like it just feels like the show. It reminded me of you know, what you typically get from like a 12:30, where like we're so deep into
Mhm.
the run and it's an
Yeah.
isolated run, but like this is the night where like we feel completely a part of whatever the last two nights of music have been. Um, it was funny because we ordered food this night and it came way faster than I expected it to. And like I had to go up and grab the food when Axilla started, and I knew it was Axilla 1, and I come back downstairs, and they're playing the Axilla 2 ending. I'm like, "What the fuck is going on? What are these guys doing?" And that was kind of the whole feeling for the rest of the show. Wolfman's, you know, you just, like, fall into this jam. Set Your Soul Free got to some really weird demonic places. It reminded me of the Simple from Dick's that went into Catapult back last September. Sense and Subtle Sounds, Cross-Eyed, like, 2 songs that tend to jam really well, but in the placement that they played them after really significant jams and Set Your Soul Free and Simple, I kind of figured we're just gonna get, like, a 10-minute rock and roll version of Sense and Subtle Sounds, like a high energy Cross-Eyed and Painless, and instead they went in the exact same jamming place that they had been. It just they felt like they didn't want to leave the stage, which from the couch is always a cool thing, but I've got to imagine being there in the room is or on the beach is a great feeling as well.
I love
Yeah.
this cross-eyed and painless. It's so good.
Yeah. I mean, it was weird. Things got incredibly weird. I'll tell you that. There was
Tell us
definitely a
more.
part. There was definitely a part toward the end of "Set Your Soul Free" when I like thought that it was like all gonna go crashing to the ground.
Mhm.
It was like this is all, the world is over, and and then it like resolves into Simple, but there was definitely a moment there where I was like, I don't know if this is okay. I don't know if this is going to be okay. And then and then Simple, started, and everything was fine. The Sense and the Cross-Eyed though, yeah, I expected like more songs, and it kind of after those 30, almost 25 or so minutes of jamming, that it would kind of turn into more of like a Saturday night show that I would
Yeah.
expect, but they just kept going back into it, which was really cool. I don't know, the encore was so great. The Slave was just so perfect. Great way to end. But the Wedge and Sleeping Monkey, I mean, it was so fun, and it was a beautiful encore. It was really, really amazing show.
I loved how Slave, like structurally, that song is almost set up like a lot of their jamming that they've been doing throughout this run,
Mhm.
where You get the song, and then everything drops out. It's just on, A and D, and it just like slowly builds back up to a peak. And so many of these jams kind of felt that way to my ears. And so the Here Slave coming at the end just felt like, hey, we wrote a song that feels like this vibe, and we're going to play it for you now.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a lot more like blissful jamming this run than in the fall tour, right? That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
it felt to me like they took elements of fall tour and kind of like evened out the edges. So it was a little bit more refined. It honestly, like we talked about this, I think in one of our recaps, like sonically it reminds me of the transition from New Year's Eve 97 to the Island Tour, where like the Island Tour has elements of the 1997 jamming style. It's funky, it's groovy, but there's a little bit more softness around the edges, and that's where they move into ambient jamming. And I don't necessarily see them like repeating that style of, 2022 will sound like 1998 in any ways, but it felt like, what is the logical next step from this very noisy, cacophonous industrial jamming built out of sci-fi soldiers? Well, let's just kind of like shave off the edges and explore the space and explore the melody now that we have the sounds and the tools that we're really building with. So one question I have following this show, you have one more show left, and then obviously, you this isn't your last night in Mexico, but I've got to imagine coming out of Sunday night, there's almost a sense of like, hey, we got to get packed because we got to fly back to America tomorrow, and that's going to be a whole thing. Is there like a race to finish everything on Saturday night and everything, just, fill in the blanks there? But like, is there a sense of like, hey, this is the last like night that we're on vacation, or how does this feel after the show?
So this was our latest night for sure. And this was like the night that I slept the least. We went back to the pool again. Like you have to walk through that area, and got, persuaded to hang out for a while, and we were ready to keep hanging out a little bit. But I think it was like 2:00 probably, and we were ready to go home. And we were like friends of ours who were there were really trying hard to persuade us to keep hanging out. And I'm like, for me, like 2:00 is like, it's like basically the morning. Like
what happens after this?
Like we've already
it's not going to be good.
Yeah, we've been hanging out for 14 hours since noon,
and nothing else to say to you.
Like I didn't even want to like have another beer. Like I didn't want to like. I was just like, all right, this is But people, I know many people who didn't go to sleep until the morning. So I would say that probably yes, your theory is probably correct, that it's like this is the last big night. And also a lot of people leave early Monday morning. Of course, we left at our shuttle thing was at like 12:30, so we didn't have the same urgency. But I think Saturday night was probably the biggest party for sure. And again, the pool scene, I saw so many of our friends from Twitter at the pool. It's just like another party. It's like but going to a post show party like in someone's hotel room or something is pretty different from like standing around a pool with like a DJ who's playing really great stuff. Our friend Jesse Lauder did the DJing one late night and a couple afternoons, and all the DJs were great. So it's a good place to stay up really late if you want to do that. I saw some
very
like,
fun video from it. It looked really fun.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I felt like we were like real losers for going home at 2, but I'm also like, I mean, it's like 2:00. I don't know. What else do you want? What else do you want from me? So yeah, it was great.
Think of the last time I stayed up past 2:00 in the morning. It might have been with you in San Francisco, but like it's been a while.
It's been a while, and that it's a special occasion. I mean, it was great, but we definitely like. I think we might have said like, yes, we're going to keep hanging out. We're just going to like go over here for a second. And then we left. Cause we
the Irish goodbye.
Yeah, we had to do it. Sunday was a really fun day. During the day, we went to this one pool area that's called the Taco Bar, and we hung out by the pool and we ordered plates of tacos that each order came with 2 tacos. And we probably got like 60 plates of tacos throughout the course of the day over like we had to get to the show early on Sunday, so you have to leave like
Yeah.
at 4 instead of 6. But for 4 hours, we hung out at the pool, and we must have had 100 or more tacos between
Are you sick
8
of
of us.
tacos now?
No, I mean they were so good too. It wasn't like shitty tacos. They were very good. We ordered so much. We were like, I can't believe we ordered this much. Then we finished them immediately and ordered more. And that day, actually, after the pool, before the show, I went back to our room by myself, and my wife stayed with our friends, and I made myself take like a 15-minute nap, which actually worked. And then I was ready to go. So Sunday was great because we went down and we planned on going to the beach and not going into the crowd at all. And we set up on the beach pretty close because there's a lot of room. And then for like most of the first set, I was in the ocean, and it was just, once you get in the ocean at a show, you're like, oh, this is like the whole point of being here is like splashing around in the ocean and swimming and just like enjoying the warm water while you're listening to music. It's pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, what's the sound like from the ocean?
Fine, totally fine. Like I
Wow.
didn't, I didn't even notice a difference. I mean, on the beach, same thing. Like, being very close is better sound wise, but it's not like you're straining to hear. It's the sound, the way the speakers are arranged are like they're on Mike's side, they're like pointing at the beach. So
Wow.
you're getting great sound. And again, saw like many friends in the water. Like like our friend Felicia and other people, and you're just like, hey, and then you like swim around and talk to people, and then you like and Fish is playing, and it's pretty wild. And it was
Man.
surprising that they played three riff songs in a row there, and I was like wondering if they were going to play Maze at some point. But the Split Open and Melt was a pretty cool and pretty wild almost set closer. I thought that was pretty awesome.
So you mentioned to us, and then you mentioned this publicly, that this was a top 20 show for you all time. First and foremost, can you rank your top 20 shows right here on the spot? No, I'm joking.
You probably could.
I feel like Brian could for sure.
I feel like Brian could. I would definitely get confused after a few minutes.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I could. I can't tell you. Can't tell you the periodic table, but yeah, I could tell you every single where Fish show.
What's more useful? Come on.
Yeah,
this is true. Oh, I'm not on a podcast about the periodic table, so this is a good thing.
Perfect.
Was the vibe the contributing factor? Or was the music? Was it a combination? Like what to you when you walked away were you like, that's one of the best shows I've ever seen?
Part of it is the spending the first set like in the ocean. So part of it is just personal experience like that. I mean, I think the Mike's Groove and the long Split Open and Melt, which I had just gotten out of the ocean before that, and I was back with our group of people, and it was just like we knew it would get weird, and it did, and it was the sun was just getting dark, when that started, and it was perfect. To me, like the song choices and the jamming in the second set, I just thought was like perfect start to finish. I mean, I think the No Men was something we were expecting to open the second set, and it was not super long, but the Everything's Right and the Caspian were both just great. Like it was a great Caspian. I think that the Sea of Stars is one of their most interesting songs. Like to me, that was the most interesting musical part of the whole weekend, just because you can tell that they're like, it's like Dark Star, they're just experimenting on the fly, and there's like a lot of really interesting stuff happening in that, whatever it is, however long it is. I mean, I just thought that part was amazing. I guess that was like what 11 12 minutes, and then the Golden Age, like the jam in Golden Age was my favorite jam of the weekend, just because it was really funky, but it was also like pretty upbeat, and I just thought they were I think that's like that sort of segment between Everything's Right and Golden Age was improv wise like the most interesting part of the weekend. And then like Lonely Trip and Harry Hood to close it out, like that's just so blissful and amazing. So that whole second set to me is like pretty perfect.
Yeah. I thought it flowed incredibly well. The
Mhm.
Golden Age was like the Creamy was probably my favorite jam of the week, and the Golden Age was right behind it. In both in the sense that, like you talked about this with the Saturday night show. By the time they started Golden Age, I kind of figured we'll get like a 9-10 minute. It'll be funky. It'll probably stay close to Golden Age, and then they'll end the show with, a possum, a golgi, something to just like raise the energy before the weekend's over. And when they just kept going with Golden Age, like you just got this sense that the band, and I love this so much when they do this for like a run, you get a sense towards the end of the weekend that the band still has a lot left in them.
Yeah.
And that if they
Mhm.
played a fifth show, they have a lot of songs still left on the table, and creatively they still feel like they have something left to be said. Um, our friend who was on the show this last weekend, Ben Greenfield, texted me during Lonely Trip and said, there's never been a better placed ballad, like more consistently has a
Mhm.
ballad been better placed than Lonely Trip. And it seems like every time they play it, you get this sense of this right here is when they should have played it. We needed to take a step down. It's a perfect reflection. And Harry Hood, I always get emotional when Harry Hood's played. And to see them, here in a new year, applying a slightly new sound to one of their most reliable emotional peaks of a song. It just, in the moment watching it, it felt like they were recognizing that, something special had happened here musically. And Harry Hood in person is just like put the arms up, and you're like, what? This is why we do this right here,
Hmm.
this moment. And it was such a great set closer. Well, Meg, we didn't really get a chance to talk about the show. What were your thoughts about it?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I remember we were texting a little bit during the first set, and the 3 riff songs in a row are just so great. I know they did that sometime recently too. I don't know if you remember, Brian, but it's just I love that they're playing them kind of as a suite, some of these songs, because they go so well together. They also are just I love Rift, and it's my introduction to Fish, and so anytime I hear these songs together, I just immediately feel like this deep sense of nostalgia. And I remember, I think it was on our text chain that Jonathan said during Split Open, he's like, this near the ocean could get like really weird. But
Yeah.
luckily it was still light out. So I think if it had been dark, that might have been like really scary. Like people would have
It
just
was
sort of like,
just on the verge.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
they would have been like oozing into the water. So thankfully it was still light out. So everybody stayed safe. But it definitely could have gotten really weird if it was dark. I think this song selection, especially in the second set, is just absolutely perfect. And I agree, the Golden Age was just so magical. And every time they played Lonely Trip, it's been coming out of just this like great jam. I think of
Yeah.
like the Haleys and Hershey, or other times when they've like landed into it where it just sounded so beautiful and perfectly played. And I think they're doing such a good job of playing their new songs in the right places right now, which is like really exciting. I also think this encore is perfect. I
Yeah.
love A Life Beyond the Dream. I feel like sometimes people, I don't know, I haven't seen it get the love. I saw it in Charlotte, and I felt like half of the place, like, or not Charlotte, sorry, Charleston. I felt like half the place emptied out. And I was like,
Yeah.
am I the only one that loves this song? It's so beautiful. And
Great
then
song.
ending in First Tube. Yeah, like I think together that's like a perfect encore. I think that this trend of like building an incredible set list is just continuing from the summer and the fall. I think they're just really nailing it and
They're
playing
doing a good
songs
job.
that,
Yeah.
yeah, like just really flow well and also are interesting, like busting out songs that we haven't heard, playing jams in different ways, jamming out songs we don't expect in different places. I just think it's making it so interesting.
I want to add that, I mean, Brian, you know that Harry Hood is by far my favorite song to hear live at a show, and it's been like so like we knew they were going to play it, and
Mhm.
that was so great. But I think I went to the bathroom and maybe to get a beer or something at the very end of Golden Age when I knew that it was like going into something else. And as I was walking back, there were like definitely hundreds, and not half the crowd or anything, but there were hundreds of people leaving before Harry Hood. So I think like maybe people who had like, a 5 a.m. shuttle to get to the airport or something. There was definitely
Mm.
like a large amount of people who were leaving before the end of the second set, which is too bad, but like that's why they start somewhat early.
Mhm.
I think they said it was supposed to be 5 and then they started at like 5:40. something like that.
Mhm.
Does that sound right?
Mm.
Like they could have started earlier, but you know,
Mhm.
they didn't. But the hood was so amazing. I mentioned this earlier, but Beneath the Sea of Stars, like half the crowd just started like speed dating. It was like it started and everyone's like, "So, how's it going? What are you up to?" Like it was like what's everyone doing? It's not over. This is not like a commercial break. Like what the fuck is happening?
Ugh, that
Um
song too is so incredibly beautiful. Like that,
it's
yeah.
beautiful and it's like
Mhm.
it's so experimental and it you know I was really shocked by that. But the same thing kind of happened during Life Beyond the Dream. My wife and I both love that song, so that was cool. I was hoping either after Life Beyond the Dream or after First Tube that they would play more because that's like after Back Was Down the Number Line, that's my favorite song to like just absolutely
It's such a good
rage
song.
to when like everyone else is like sad because I'm like this song is so great. But
Yeah.
the first two we had like a full like probably the 10 or 12 people that we were with, everyone was just going absolutely nuts. It was like we were leaving everything on the field. And it was a great it was like a great ending. It was a really it was just a really magical night, but also I thought the show was just kind of perfect. Um, so you know, according to Fish.net, it's by far the worst rated show, and there's not a single review of the show on Fishnet, which is kind of
Interesting.
amazing.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
seeing that
I
now.
Even Thursday is ranked higher. So I think after this, I'm going to commit to
Interesting.
I'm going to write a review and I'm going to post it on Fishnet because no one wants to hear about Sunday's show. So I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to do it. I'm going to write another one.
I
Do
feel like
it.
this run did a really good job of like the shows matching the vibe of the day that they were played. Like the Thursday night show is energetic. You get there, it's kind of a party. It's a little bit more high energy, but like they give you kind of a preview of what's to come. Friday, Saturday, they dive deep. You get these weird set lists with really interesting song selections, a lot of jamming. Sunday, like Sunday's first set to me, I was like, this is the kind of music I want Fish to play on a beach in at
Mhm.
sunset.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and the second set, you know, by this point in a run, especially if you're streaming it from home, you're kind of just like, well, I don't know what else they have on the table, and I don't know how much energy they still have. And like, it's the last set. Usually, these sets don't end up being, you know, filled with, you know, incredible amount of highlights. I felt like this one flowed perfectly. Song selection, as we're talking about, it was not really what I expected, but they hit a lot of songs that you would expect them ultimately to play during a run. Everything's right.
Mhm.
Golden Age, Harry Hood. During Sea of Stars, my wife looked at me and goes, Trey is the most giddy person on earth because he wrote
Mhm.
every one of these lyrics for this setting right here. Um,
Totally.
I don't know. I just thought they paced it out really nicely, and I enjoyed this show a lot. Friday was my favorite overall show, but I don't think that they played a bad show, and I don't think that they played a show
Mhm.
that like there's enough to go back and sink your teeth into to try to understand musically where the band is at and really enjoy musically where they're at leading up to MSG. All right, last couple questions for you here before we go. So you leave the Sunday show. You have a little bit of a later shuttle, but like,
Yep.
are the DJs playing? Is it just like, do you walk out and it feels like it's over and we just got to go back and go to bed and get packed up, or like, is there a sense of like we are staying on vacation?
Yeah, there was definitely the latter. I mean, I was purposely like, you have to go through the pool area to get back to where we were staying. So I was like, we have to go through here, but I don't like, I want to get back to like our area because the, this is going to sound like so bougie, but like the grand area, it's quiet. And it's like you walk through all this huge party and you get to like the end of like the grand area, which is like a separate wristband and all that. No one really checks, but it's like a separate area. And you get back to that area and you like cross over into that area and it's just quiet, completely quiet. You don't hear anything. You can hear like, you know, crickets and birds and that's it. So it's really nice to like go into an insane party and then like walk out and then you're like in silence. We went to this bar inside of the lobby called the Speakeasy Bar. It's like bookcases are the doors, and you open the bookcases and go in, and it's they definitely have like the best mixed drinks in the whole place. Like they have good. It's like it felt like being in like a nice lounge somewhere, and we hung out there for a couple hours after because we just wanted to like keep hanging out. But we were hanging out like sitting in comfortable chairs and just kind of sitting around, not like in the middle of a pool dance party. So that's how we chose to wind down. And I think I had to call it a night at like 1, and like that was fine. The show was over by I think 9:45 probably. So we had a lot more time to hang out, and then eventually had to call it a night. But it was like the late afternoon leaving on Monday is definitely like something I wouldn't do it otherwise, because if you have to get up, you have to be on a shuttle at 7 or something, like it just, if you're going all out to do something like this, you might as well make it like as chill as possible, like do everything you can to make it as relaxing as possible for yourself. That was our take anyway.
You'll get home to the cold. You'll get home to work, all that
Yeah.
sort of stuff. Just enjoy it while you're there.
I will
and
say,
the
I
other,
just want to say one more thing,
yeah,
which is that on Sunday, because we were leaving on Monday, we had to go get a COVID test. So the way
Mhm.
it worked is you go in the lobby and then you go down these stairs, whatever, and there's this room, and you go in and you like register, and then there's like a waiting room, and then you go in and do the test. Then you have to come back into the waiting room that you were in, and they make you wait for your test because they're like 15-minute rapid tests. So we go in and we see like a bunch of people, and everyone's like kind of like sitting there waiting, whatever. And then you go in, you get your test, and then you go into the next room, and there's a little small bowling alley and bar right across the hallway. So everyone went in and got drinks and came back in the waiting room. And then it's just like everyone's like partying in this waiting room, waiting for their COVID test results. And apparently there's like no privacy concerns, because they would come in and they'd be like, RJ, Rachel, you're negative. And then like everyone
yell it.
would just cheer. And then everyone, like every time they said like negative test, like everyone would start cheering, and everyone's like spilling their beer and having it's like 11 a.m. It's just like interesting encapsulation of why this place is great. We saw like 5 people in the waiting room who we had seen in other places over the weekend. And so that part was just like an interesting little COVID twist on it, but it was also like, it was pretty fun.
That's awesome. The other question is fashion related. So
yeah,
John Fishman came out looking just marvelous with beach hair and a beard. Megan and I were saying he looks like a college professor who happens to play in a local bar band. But then also Mr. Trey Anastasio made headlines on Sunday with flip up shades. Tell me, just looked amazing. He looked like a rock star at a country fair, like a state fair, playing like Bob Seger.
So good.
Which look did you like better, and what were your thoughts on the band's fashion choices throughout the weekend?
I loved the Saturday night sweatshirt was great, or sweater, whatever that was that Trey had on with the lightning bolts. Yeah,
the Schitt's Creek sweater.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty sweet.
That was good.
Fishman just looked like he didn't give a fuck. Like, it's so great. He's just
Castaway vibes.
Yeah, he looked like he flew down to Mexico after the New Year's Eve set.
He might have. You never know.
Totally.
Mike was ripped, and he kept posting pictures of his workouts, which was great. I thought they looked great. I mean, Trey, like the flip up shades were hilarious, because I was
amazing
when he started, I'm like, can't remember the last time I've seen him wearing sunglasses on stage. Maybe a Magna Ball during the day set, but I don't remember. I just like it's not very often. Has anyone did anyone catalog that?
So I'm thinking it may be different than what I'm about to say. The last time I recall was night 1 of It, the daytime set. But now that I'm thinking about it, I need to go back and look at video. It might be the acoustic set from Festival 8.
Wow. That's very. That's way more specific.
I did start to think about this then. Yeah. Are you surprised?
Well, they don't do that many daytime, because even when they're playing in the summer, typically it's an amphitheater, right? So it's not like the sun is in their eyes. It's pretty rare. It's festivals, really. Yeah, it was great. I mean, my fashion was less, I guess, elaborate than theirs. I brought like 5 t-shirts and 3 pairs of shorts, and like that's kind of it. It was great.
You're not like a fish chick who had like her glitter and her, you
No.
didn't have the whole.
If I went without my wife, I would have just had my backpack. But we had one suitcase
impressive.
that was a carry-on between the two of us. That's all we brought, and our backpacks.
Wow, that's
Well
impressive.
done.
Our friends
I
were
am
like kind of
really
blown away.
impressed.
We were like, we took it. It was pretty simple. And I think we looked okay. The pictures turned out great.
I think you looked awesome. You looked so happy.
I was very happy. My wife had a
Mhm.
great like picture-worthy outfit on Friday night with like a sparkle jumpsuit that was sent to us by our friend Drew's wife, and it just rocked everybody's world. So we
That's
made some
awesome.
fashion headlines, but not like Trey. So
Hard to compete.
yeah, it was really great. I as we've talked over the last hour or so, like I think everyone knows, and I realized many times throughout the weekend how lucky we were to be in such a situation, like to be able to spend the money and time and have childcare and go to Mexico. Like it's not easy to do. So I realized that it takes like, I'm lucky to be a white American, and be able to like do those sorts of things. But if you can do it, I think you can spend just as much money going to 4 shows, somewhere else.
Mhm.
But a 5 or 6 day vacation on the beach, that's all inclusive. It's a perfect way to see fish, in my opinion. So I would recommend people check it out if they haven't wanted to before.
I think that's a really good point, is like everything's all included there. And if you look
Mhm.
at going, doing a standard fish run in any city in America, you're probably going to, at some point, depending on how many shows you do, be in a similar financial boat. So
Mhm.
throwing all of that into a 4-day getaway, 5-day getaway in Mexico, it's a good way to kind of unwind in the middle of winter. It feels like the
Yeah,
perfect time of year to do this.
it's definitely a perfect time.
All right, last question for the group, as we do at the end of every one of these episodes. We're going to go around. Everyone's going to recommend a set and a jam for listeners to check out. We've thrown out a lot of highlights here, but Megan, starting with you, what would be your jam you'd recommend people check out, and what would be your set you recommend people checking out from this run?
My jam is the Cross-Eyed and Painless. It's just the jam is so melodic, and the ending section is like so ethereal and delicate. That's like my favorite kind of jam. It's just beautiful, gorgeous. And I also love that it comes out of this like hard driving rock song. I think it's just like we were talking a little bit about this on one of the recaps, but they're doing so many gems that start in a certain place and end somewhere totally different. And I think that's what this was, which was super great. And I think my set is that set. I think night 3, set 2. Set your soul free, simple, sense and subtle sounds, cross-eyed, waist, blaze on. I think it's great. I think that if they had taken that slave, maybe blaze on was, the set would have been like absolutely perfect. But awesome played set. I think the first 4 songs are just new directions for jams. I thought it was great.
I love all those answers. RJ, what about you?
Oh man, jam. I guess I think I've never needed you like this before from the first night is particularly like it's very fiery and really pretty incredible. I think that, the set 2 of Sunday night. It seems to me like based on the fact that there are no reviews on Fishnet and that it has such a low review, like it seems like people didn't really like that, and I think. I think it's worth going back to. I mean, I would encourage people to like put on headphones and listen to the Everything's Right, Caspian, Sea of Stars, Golden Age, Lonely Trip, Hood. Like that's
Mhm.
a perfect chunk of music, and then throw the 10-minute No Men at the beginning of that, just because why not? I mean, that to me is it's been overlooked, I think, so far. So I'm gonna keep saying that.
I'm into that as well. I'm going to go with the Carini from 225, my favorite jam of the overall run. I think it just accomplishes everything they seem to be going for throughout the entire run. And it's one that I've listened back to a few times. I've just been fascinated by. And I'm going to go with that set as well. That second set, 4-song second set, only the second time that's happened since 2004. Down with Disease, I loved. Trey just was shredding. And then they go into that melodic zone. I think it definitely, I get what you mean. It got a little long towards the end, but that number line, This is a Numberline friendly podcast. We love Numberline here. We
Yes.
celebrate every version of Numberline. And I loved how it dropped out. It got quiet. They built it back up. Carini comes next. And then a song I heard the ocean sing goes into this really cool, just like power chord. It's very uplifting and doesn't actually return to a song I heard the ocean sing. It was such a cool way to end off that set. So either way, I mean, based on all of us listing 3 separate jams and 3 separate sets, there was a lot of great music to take away. And I really enjoyed recapping this and getting a on the ground reporting from you, RJ, getting your thoughts on what it was like. I feel like I was there eating 65 tacos in the afternoon sun. I just, what a vibe, man.
I hope you guys can come next year.
Thanks, RJ.
I'm hoping I can come. It seems like the best way to take a break. But we will be back as a team next week. We are going to be diving back in time 30 years. 30 years.
Wow.
Wow.
The spring of 1992. George H.W. Bush was president. Bill Clinton had not yet become the comeback kid. U2
I
had
was
just
15.
released Octoon Baby. Megan was 15. I was 7. The Chicago Bulls were about to win the best championship that they ever won, in my opinion. And we're going to talk.
This is a
We're
great preview.
This is a great preview. We'll just wait till we actually get to the episode. I got a lot. We are going to talk about the spring of 1992. We're going to talk about this tour in 3 parts over the course of the spring of 2022. Everybody's got a lot of homework to do. We're going to be focusing on March 1992, sharing our highlights, sharing some great shows. Personally speaking, I think Modern Fish begins with the spring of 92. You get a lot of great songs that are debuted in the early spring, a lot of cool gimmicks. April 92 is an amazing month. So I'm really excited for us to jump into that. We will be doing that next week. Same time, same place. Last thing to share with you all here. Hey, we got a friend here.
Hi.
Franklin, you say hi?
Hi.
Hey, Franklin, how you doing?
Hi, Franklin.
He can't hear you, but he's good.
He's good. So the last thing I want to tell you all before we leave is about our friends at Sunset Lake CBD. Give you a quick reminder here that Sunset Lake CBD is a majority employee-owned hemp farm located just outside of Burlington, Vermont. For many years, Sunset Lake was a dairy farm producing milk for Ben & Jerry's ice cream. In 2018, 2019, they diversified. They started growing hemp for CBD. Sunset Lake embraces Vermont's tradition for land stewardship by using sustainable and regenerative farming techniques. To build and protect healthy soils, they are 100% pesticide free. That's good. Use minimal tillage and implement cover crops and crop rotations. They also serve as the research farm for the University of Vermont's agronomists. I think I got that right, Meg. Did I get that
Nailed
right?
it. Nailed it.
Agronomists to study hemp and inform best industry practices. Look, we talk a lot here about Sunset Lake CBD. I love their product. It is totally revolutionized for me the world of smoking grass and smokables. Their edibles are excellent. Their tinctures, I use them in tea towards the end of the night. It's such a great way to unwind towards the end of the day. Knowing that they're a majority employee-owned hemp farm, knowing the practices that they put into place means that much more for me. So I would encourage you all to check out sunsetlakecbd.com. Use the coupon code HFPod for 20% off all products. Sunset Lake CBD, farmer-owned, Vermont grown. And with that, we'll be back next week. RJ, Megan, have yourself a great rest of your Wednesday and a great rest of your week. I cannot wait to talk to you all next week.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for listening and watching.
Thanks, everyone. Bye, guys.
See everyone.